Learning objective 3, what is the consumer equilibrium? And one way to think about it is it's the maximum satisfaction that's within your budget. And so we have consumer equilibrium that is both affordable and gives you satisfaction. And you can see where we're going with this. It's where there's an intersection between the budget line and the indifference curve. And the specific point that is the intersection is where the marginal rate of substitution are equal for the indifference curve and the budget line. So the slopes hit exactly the same spot. Let's look at how that looks graphically. That might help you understand. So here is a budget line. We're going to overlay it with an indifference curve. Now notice that the indifference curve meets the budget line at 2 points, A and some other point we didn't specify down here. So the question is, can you afford this? The answer is yes. You can afford this amount and be on indifference curve number 1. However, I think you can do better. So what we can do is move up indifference curves. Now, can you afford indifference curve 4? No, you'd like to, but you can't right now. So you will go and find the highest level of indifference curve that just touches the budget line. And that is where the MRS intersects with the slope of the indifference curve. And that's what we're looking at in point C. So C is what we call the equilibrium. It's the highest level of indifference curve that you can afford while staying still within your budget line, actually on the budget line. So consumer behavior is such that if price changes, we're going to have some change in what we buy. So how would this work? Well, when we have a price change, it now makes our mind calculate, well, I wanted a certain amount before at this price. If the price goes up, perhaps I don't want so much. Maybe I want to shift to something else. So this is why we're going to use indifference curves to try to predict the consumer behavior should the price change. So when the price increases, it reduces our budget, right? That's another effect. It's not that you got a pay cut, but it feels like it because you can't buy as much. The opposite is true too. If prices go down, then the budget set goes up because now we can afford more. We saw that previously on a graph. So the new consumer equilibrium depends on a couple of things. First is, are they substitute goods or are they complements? A substitute is where you can buy X, or the price of X goes up, you can just jump over and buy Y. That's a substitute. So I often use Coca-Cola and Pepsi. So I can buy Coca-Cola. If the price of Coca-Cola goes up, I'm not picky. I'll buy a cola drink. I'll buy a Pepsi. So that's a simple example of a substitute. A complement is where they are together, right? Complementary. So if I'm buying a glass of beer at a bar, I'll buy some pretzels. If the price of beer is so high, I say, gee, I'm going to have to skip the beer. I'll probably skip the pretzels. So complementary goods go together, and then substitutes go in opposite directions. That's one way to think about it. And so let's look at it graphically. So the blue line is the budget line. The green line is the initial consumer equilibrium. And we're going to change the price. So as we saw before, when we change the price, it scoots the line out to the right because we can now buy not this amount at the price. We can buy this amount because the price dropped. So all of a sudden, this is now a budget line. And you can see just graphically that we're going to do better, right? We're on this green indifference curve number 1, but we're going to do a little bit better. And we're going to end up at this point, indifference curve number 2, where we are happier because we're moving out to a higher level IC. And notice that there's a shift. We shifted buying so that we're buying more of item X because the price dropped, and we're buying less of good Y. And so we're trading off. Because the price is more attractive, we're shifting our behavior in this fashion. So this is an illustration of a substitute product because we're substituting Y for X given the drop in price in X, right? So that's a good example of a substitute. This is the Pepsi and Coca-Cola example.